And you know what? We've been talking about it, Jim, recently. Andrade, AEW. Flair, we all assume, will be in AEW. Ric Flair, I should specify.
Yeah.
And
well, you don't need to specify too much anymore.
And look at what they've done with Charlotte since that time. I told you the day after the pay-per-view, they had her and Alexa Bliss, a confrontation. I was like, oh, no, don't do this. No, don't worry, it got worse. Her and Nia Jax. Because if she pinned Charlotte, this isn't over. This is a program. If she pinned her, there's going to be a rematch. There's going to be something. I don't know when their next pay-per-view is. We're going to see this again. You're doing everything you can to push Charlotte. Maybe I should just start saying Ashley Flair to AEW. Yeah. And it's going to happen.
Let's examine this for a second. Obviously, they know that Nia Jax is not that good and has no business going 12 minutes on TV with anybody. And maybe it wasn't supposed to go 12. Maybe they fucked up so much there in the middle that they were trying to get back to where they were supposed to be, and they took a couple of extra minutes. But even yet, in what rational world do you beat Charlotte Flair on free television with Nia Jax?
Clean.
Boom. And especially when, as you just mentioned, the rest of her family is already located on the other channel. Unless you're saying, hey, go join the rest of the family. That has to be the message here at this point. That is just completely insane. And no, that match wasn't a shoot. That match was a mess. That they were trying to cooperate, and it was that bad. And obviously, since we've seldom seen Nia Jax have a good one and seldom seen Charlotte Flair have a bad one, we know whose fault it was, but they were trying to cooperate until finally, then they lost complete they got frustrated and lost complete fucking cooperation with each other and got pissed and pie-faced each other a few times on television. And then we're basically, well, we can't fucking do this. But Nia Jax was not going to back down, so she obviously didn't realize that she was fucking the whole thing up. I don't know what Charlotte was telling her in those conferences they were having, because it don't take that long to call one tackle. But good Lord have mercy on us all. That was awful, but it wasn't a shoot. It was a lack of coordination. For about 15 seconds, a lack of cooperation, then an attempt to get back in the fucking swing of things, and Jax was in the fucking complete weeds.
You have someone who's less qualified than almost every other woman on the main roster, someone who's been there for longer than a lot of the other women on the main roster, someone who the fans don't seem to care about one way or the other. All these cuts justify Nia Jax still being there. And problems in the past. How many wrestlers have been hurt in the ring with Nia Jax? We've talked about this. This isn't the first time we've talked about some sort of incident. Is it a shoot? Is it sloppiness? It's been multiple times. Maybe this is our next omnibus, the Nia Jax omnibus. But why would Nia Jax still have a job other than her family based on every single thing she has shown on national television for the past several years?
Well, maybe she's the one that got baby dolls envelopes of pictures that she was going to blackmail Dusty Rhodes with on TBS in 1988. I have no earthly idea.
Who's she going to blackmail?
God, the viewers.
Yeah.
But that, and see, that's the problem, is that she's so big that even the girls that know how, you can't. That's why in OVW, just as an example, or in some cases in training seminars that I've been involved with, you put some of the larger girls in the ring with the guys at first, because the guys are big enough to move them around where they need to be, and it helps them understand and get the flow of things. Does that make any sense?
It makes lots of sense.
Okay, well, there's few guys that would be big enough to move Nia Jax around where she need to go to learn her the flow of things, because she has no flow whatsoever of her movement. It's all power and but that's also why sometimes some of the bigger girls would look better, China, Linda Miles, against guys than girls because they never really got smooth and the guys were big enough to move them around. But again, I've told that story before with Ernie Ladd and it was Dr. Death, Steve Williams, before he switched heel when he was still a babyface. We first got there. Doc only been in the business like a year and a half, and part of that at start wasn't all full time. So anyway, Ernie and Ernie and Hercules Hernandez maybe against Dr. Death, and maybe it was Doug and somebody. I don't know. But I'm managing Ernie because I'm with Herc. And Doc was a lot of the guys, especially the bigger guys, the stronger guys, when they first get into business and they're green, and they, especially if they've been in football or in collegiate wrestling or in some type of competitive sports, that they're not used to working and they're not used to going with the flow and they're not used to lightening up on grips. All of that thing is counterintuitive. So when they first start, they're stiff. And if they're big and football players, they're hard to move around. And you get tired of being jerked back and forth. And there was an element of Leon. That's why Shawn Michaels didn't like Vader, because he would jerk you around. And also, in some cases, even if the heel is calling the match and the babyface is the green one that's being herky-jerky and he's excited and he's not wanting to slow down, he's laying hands on you, he's wanting to do shit. Even if he's listening to what you're telling him to do, he's still manhandling you while he's listening. And sometimes you got to just fucking calm the motherfucker down. And Ernie Ladd grabbed Dr. Death and just swung him around in the corner, leaning back against the turnbuckles, and turned his back to Doc and put his right hand on the fucking top rope and his left hand on the top rope and had his back and his ass right in Dr. Death's face and stomach. And Ernie was 6'9", and at that point he was ready to retire. He was 340 maybe. And his hands were catcher's mitts, and his feet were size 18. And even though Dr. Death was 300 pounds, you couldn't see him. He was behind, and Ernie just leaned his head over and said, "We're going to stay here until you calm down and start to listen." And you slowly saw the fucking herking and the jerking and the fucking movement stop, and Doc just, okay, sorry, Ernie. Now, and he grabbed him and pulled him back out, and they did something. But there's no way to do that with any of these girls. With Nia Jax, she's so big and she's so immobile and she's so awkward.
She's never gotten better. She's been there for years.
No, but it's like doing wrestling moves to a couch. You can drop elbows and shit on it, but trying to get it to cooperate, regardless of whether you know what you're doing or not, it ain't going to look good. But again, just go ahead and tell her, you know what? Fuck you then. The rest of your family's down there. Go ahead and go. Don't fucking just beat her into powder. That's probably what they're going to do. I don't know how much longer her contract has. Is this the start now of beating her into powder because she's made it known, or they believe that she's headed out the door anyway?
Any way you look at it, that's counterproductive to her, to them, and anyone who's thinking about WWE or AEW, and then they see that, you're driving them away. Because you know what the truth of the matter is, if you look at the new protocol for what they're saying publicly about the Performance Center and who they're going to be recruiting for it, it's more Nia Jax than it is anyone who actually has any wrestling talent. You're going to get more Nia Jaxes in the future, probably.